Winter annual weeds. How are you going to manage them in the fall, Darren?
Well, how are you going to manage them in the spring? When we're talking about weeds that get a start in the fall, they're big already in the spring, they got a great big root system, you just can't control them effectively in the spring 100% of the time. But if you could take some of those weeds out right in the fall when they're small, when they're just getting started, it's so much easier.
What happens a lot of times is we're busy with harvest, we're busy with pulling soil samples and getting fertilizer on and doing fall tillage, and all these things are happening, and you kind of forget about some of the winter annual weeds. Now, I did mention fall tillage. If you're doing that, a lot of times that will take care of some of the winter annuals. You just have to do good aggressive tillage and not just kind of knock them over and then they keep coming back. With this year's drought, a lot of people are looking at doing less tillage to try to conserve moisture, and if you're planning on that on your farm, you might need to do some spraying yet this fall.
Well, one of the things that I think about, Brian, when we're talking about winter annual weeds, if we're going out there in the fall, you can use products that you really can't get away with using in the spring. For example, let's say you're going to be planting soybeans in this field next year and we've got some winter annual weeds. Well, you can use 2,4-D in the fall safely and not have to worry about, oh, is that going to ding my soybeans when they pop up next year? That 2,4-D is long gone. So a lot of guys, what they're doing is using some 2,4-D and also in combination using a residual herbicide to make sure, hey, if we have a great fall like we did last year, that they don't pop back up on me later
Yeah,
on.
but let's face it, most people aren't doing the residual herbicide thing. I'll just tell you, on our own farm, going into corn, we've had a lot of issues with weeds like mare's tail, for example, and some other winter annuals.
Oh, how about your favorite dandelion, Brian?
Yep, dandelion and a few others, some of the perennial weeds. And so what we have done is we've gone out with a full 1 quart of Banville. I'm not talking 1 pint like a lot of people talk. I'm saying 1 quart. And you might say, oh my goodness, that's so expensive. Not anymore. A quart's gonna cost you around 10 bucks. And I just figure, you know, with the price of corn today, I can't lose any corn to weeds. And I'm so sick of dealing with some of these stupid weeds that I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna hammer them this fall. We did this last year on about 500 acres. And I'm telling you what, it was clean as a whistle this spring. It was so nice to get that stuff under control and go into a nice clean seed bed and not have to deal with some of these perennials and winter annuals. So we're gonna do that again this fall.
The other thing that we need to get under control is the weeds coming in that are Roundup resistant. And some of those weeds are getting going in the fall and they're going to seed. And you know, I just don't like to see that stuff. And some of those weeds we can put a residual herbicide out after harvest and still keep our fields clean.
Yeah, but you talk about this residual herbicide thing, Darren. Most people just are not going to do that.
But why not? You're going to put it on in the spring anyway.
Yeah,
let's talk
but
like
here's the
Valor.
reason why. Because most people are going to say, well, I'm going to lose too much of it over the winter. And you know, last winter, you might have lost some because it was so warm all winter.
Boost your rate just a little bit. Like Valor, for example, we a lot of times use 2 ounces in the spring. Many guys in our area now are going to 2.5 ounces just because the pressure of weeds is so heavy. Why not just go 3 ounces in the fall? So what if you lose 1/3 of it? You still got a full 2 ounces in the spring.
You can do that if you want to, but I think it's much more important to worry about, okay, I'm going to use a Sharpen, a Banville, a 2,4-D, something, and I am going to burn down and kill anything that's out there this fall. And it's especially important this fall because harvest came so early. We're going to have more weeds in October, let's say, than what we would normally have. So I think we got to be really aware of this.
Well, regardless of your strategy, if you want to have a residual herbicide out or if you just want to burn those weeds down once and take your chances, you've got to go after those winter annual weeds now. Get them done in the fall, and then in the springtime, you don't have to deal with these great big tough weeds.
Well, our Weed of the Week could be a winter annual, it could be a summer annual. We're going to talk about it coming up next.